and then 1 and 1. So it's 2, 3, 3, and 1. Ba, 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 and I would be standing, right? Or sitting like in my rise position here. Bum, bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, bum, 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 ba, bum. So then actually in the warm-up, we'll have members of the choir call out a position. So somebody in the front row might say position 2, position 2. And we check in with that. Someone might say position 1, ba, 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 position 1, ba, ba. And then position 3, ba, ba, ba. And so we'll use that, and we'll have that in our back pocket as the rehearsal goes on. And if there's like, a lot of talking or someone gets distracted or whatever, it's not just me as the director. Someone in the group might say position 2. And then because there's this like action we have to do, right? The clap and slapping, that gets everybody absolutely like back into the zone. And I've actually used that with our other choirs as well. Just as a fun way of saying, okay, now you can relax, position 1. And then they can just sort of take a little break for a little bit. So that's the position game. I believe that our voices are as much, if not more, of an emotional instrument of our physiology and anatomy than they are an intellectual instrument. And that might be sort of pseudoscience or just my own bias, but in a warm-up we're always trying to connect to emotional qualities. Yeah. And so this is just kind of silly and another way of kind of getting ourselves out of our head a little bit and just asking the group to laugh. So wherever you are right now, just laugh as you normally would. So I'm just laughing, and it feels good to laugh, right? And then we're going to just kind of do a cry or a moan, like, oh, sort of connect to something there. Yeah, and then actually a moan would be different. We're just go, oh, which also feels really good. If you just kind of did that, call upon our caveman, cavewoman ancestors, like, oh, just let it all out. And then a nice cathartic sigh as well, just as a barometer of how our voice is feeling. So sometimes we'll say, okay, let's do a little vocal barometer check with a sigh. Ah. And we might say, how's your voice feel today? Like between 1 and 5, 5 being great, 1 being can't really make a lot of sound. We'll build in like a little barometer so that each student can sort of assess, like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. I know maybe I need to be singing or get a little more conscious of how I'm feeling. And so we'll build that in. And then we always come back to laugh. We'll laugh again. And then I have the group laugh silently, and then from this sensation, just taking some nice easy breaths while we're laughing silently. And make the breaths even silent. Voice teachers will often use that as a prompt, right? Like I think it was Phyllis Curtin who used to teach at Tanglewood and BU, and she, among with other people, used to say, like, sing with an inner smile, It actually, that sort of sensation of laughing silently is good for our breathing because it retracts the false vocal folds, or what it actually does is it sort of opens up our throat to being able to take more efficient breathing and breathing in a way that isn't quite as constricted, because kind of constricted sensation that we have, which is useful in some ways, but not so often in singing, is a good way for us to think about like optimizing vocal function and breath function. And then after this, I would have a couple members of the group lead different warm-ups. So we assign warm-ups to the singers. And again, this is sort of just part and parcel of exploring ways to make the choral education space more democratic. So there's one student who loves to lead a shakedown, and you might know what a shakedown is, where you're moving all 4 limbs separately, counting down. We'd say like from 5 down to 1. So if I did each like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then with my feet, right? And then my hands. So that's a shakedown. And then here's another, let me turn on my piano here. Sort of, this is from my friend Rollo Dilworth, who a book of warm-ups by Rollo. This is called This Is the Phrase. And we're using our hands. I have my hands in front of my face pretty close, like I'm about to clap. And as I sing, I'm going to get louder and I'm going to move my hands away, farther apart from each other. And then as I get softer, I'm going to bring my hands back together. And the exercise goes like this. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to the end. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to the end. And so by using our hands and singing through that scale, we're getting an idea of like modulating our amplitude, crescendos, diminuendos, and volumes, and we explore different, not so much extremes, but variances of dynamic. So we can do a couple of these together. Ready, go. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to the end. We could do it here. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to the end. We could do it slower. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to. We could do it in a minor mode. This is the phrase that grows and grows and tapers to the end. So we can do some variations and play around with that. Yeah, I know I love to sing. This is a warm-up we do where we pair off and we sort of act out a silly little dialogue. And that's I do this one with all of my students, not just Cambridge Common Voices. And it's a way of like warming up our higher notes. So the two exercises go like this. I have my hands here and I'm just sort of like shrugging or throwing them forward like I'm exasperated. Like, I know. As if someone has been nagging you and you just want them to stop. So will you sing that with me? We're going to do, I know. Yeah, I'll do it right here in this key. I know. And its variation is the sort of opera diva or diva who is stretching their hands out to their sides with a very proud chest as they sing, I love to sing. Can we hear that? I love to sing. I love to sing. So we go back and forth between the character who, let's say, is your roommate who won't stop singing, and the character who is really annoyed that the singing just keeps going and going. So we'll go back and forth. I love to sing. I know. And we might assign different articulations. So like the I love to sing people will be sostenuto or legato. And the I know people will be like staccato or marcato. Like I know. And just playing around there with different articulation possibilities and the call and response and different vowel sounds and warming up the higher voices can be kind of fun. Yeah, and just a couple more. Actually, one more. That's our we, sai, sh exercise. And this is usually we do this towards the lower part of our voices. So I'm just going to sing we. Try that. We. And we'll do the same exact pattern on the phoneme sai. Sigh. And then we'll do the same exact thing as the pattern goes on, but just singing an unvoiced or unpitched shh. So each of those three sounds are kind of getting us to explore, I would say, three different things, among other things. So the we like to talk about just finding a kind of easy resonance. We, kind of getting the sound forward. Sigh gets us to kind of open our jaws a little bit and create a little bit more space, a little more depth and warmth. Sai. And the sh reminds us to kind of keep a steady kind of moving sidewalk of breath going. So when we do this exercise, we invite all the singers to sing any combination in any order of all three of those phonemes. There actually may be some singers in our group who just want to do shh, which is great because they're still connecting to their vocal technique in their body. That sound is in the room, reminding people about, just moving the air through our voices. And, we're sort of building together with these three ingredients, three kind of essential sensations to singing, right? And so, yeah, we could try that. We could just keep going down together. So you pick your own adventure here. You choose, right? We, Sai, or sh. Ready, go. Sai, we, sigh, we. Okay, and on and on. So those are some of our warm-ups. And then lastly on the slide here, I have what's called random time. Random time is another kind of redirection tool in addition to the position game. So we'll have some students who will want to share something, not particularly like on topic, and it might just kind of get the train off the track a little bit, even though we want people to lift their voices, right, and share what's on their hearts. There are times where we've just got to keep moving forward with our plan, our work, our task for the day. And so random time is a moment we reserve near the end of the rehearsal, maybe 3/4 of the way through, where we can share anything. It could be our rose and our thorn, or it could be a highlight of your last week or something you're looking forward to next week. Sometimes we might have a particular prompt for random time, like what is your favorite Avenger character, or what's your favorite holiday, anything. But we'll use random time in rehearsal if someone starts to want to share something important but maybe not particularly relevant. We'll just say, let's save it for random time. And random time is much more than a redirect. Random time is like one of our most important moments of community building, because it's when we're sort of sharing our joys and appreciations, as well as our struggles and our frustrations. And it's really something that we all look forward to. And sometimes even on like a whiteboard, if someone starts to say something, I'll be like, so-and-so, Andy, can we save that for random time? I'll go over and on the whiteboard under random time, write Andy's name. And remember that when we get to that point that they can share. So we sometimes bring that up in the warm-up. Okay, I want to just go through a few things here with you. We have a gathering song. So a lot of choirs have this, maybe less so once you get into older groups like high school groups and college groups or community groups. But even like some of my college choirs, like the Harvard Glee Club and our mixed choir, Collegium Musicum, they have like their own theme songs that they sing at many, many concerts, if not all of their concerts. And it usually connects to sort of the values of the group in one way or another. The text is an important part of sharing what we're about, what the theme is. And so we did a project last summer, actually on Zoom, in collective songwriting. And collective songwriting can be found in many, many, many different cultures around the world. We were studying with one particular artist named Marta Gonzalez, who's a professor at the Scripps colleges in California, but she's an ethnomusicologist, but also a performer. She's a Grammy Award-winning singer and songwriter for a group called Quetzal. And one of the things that Dr. Gonzalez does is goes around the country, around the world, actually, in different contexts, from colleges to incarcerated settings to preschools, and guides communities through songwriting together based on experiences and research that she had in Native and indigenous communities in Mexico, and including in rural and mountainous regions. And it's not really like super complicated. I mean, it can be adapted to any context, but basically the steps were to decide together upon a theme, a prompt of some kind. It could be a poem, it could be a phrase, it could be a single adjective, and to start to ask the group to share some ideas, or what does that bring up for you? And on a whiteboard or in a Google Doc, we started to collect and collate ideas, crowdsourced ideas from the entire ensemble. And then we took a week and we sort of read through those and found some connections and some more themes. And then we just got together for 45 minutes and we said, okay, let's write a song. Somebody come up with a first line, and don't yuck someone else's yum, and let's just kind of work on this together. And so out of that came this theme song. Let me see if I'm gonna. Yeah. And why don't I do this? We'll just kind of do some call and response, and you can sing right after me. The song goes like this: singing with my friends, music old and new. I'll do that again. Singing with my friends, music old and new. Last time. Singing with my friends, music old and new. And then the last part of the verse is, through a whole new lens when I'm feeling blue. Through a whole new lens when I'm feeling blue. So the whole thing is singing with my friends, music old and new. Through a whole new lens when I'm feeling blue, I need a hug from you. So we came up with that, and different people had different takes, and we sort of went back and forth and built some consensus around that verse. I'll sing it one more time, and you could sing with me if you want, or just listen, it's also fine. Singing with my friends, music old and new, through a whole new lens. When I'm feeling blue, I need a hug from you. And you can tell that the nature of the melody itself is informed by the strengths of our group. It doesn't have a huge range. It's a conjunct melody. It has repetition where the first and the third phrase are exactly the same. It's, pretty idiomatic of a folk song or a pop song. It's got a rhyme scheme. And so, thinking about that too, it's like in creating a piece, we can optimize it ourselves to the strengths of our group. And then the chorus goes like this: together we sing, compassion we bring. Together we sing, compassion we bring. Heart to heart, hand in hand, our musical family, our CCV band, our musical family, our CCV band. So that's our gathering song. We can play. We have a loop here that we made of just the instrumental tracks, and it includes several of our members playing different instruments. I think we might have done this in the Zoom times, but it's just, it's kind of our groove. And we have singing with my friends, music old and through a whole lens. When I'm feeling blue, I need a hug from you. Together we sing, compassion we bring, heart to heart, hand in hand, our musical family, our CCV band, our musical family, our CCV band. So as we're teaching this originally, we're trying different things to recruit interest in different ways. So we have a couple members of our group who use ASL. And I just want to say too that I struggle sometimes about the use of ASL in a performative way or as choreography. Certainly, I think if there are members of a choir who access music and language and express themselves through the language of sign language, that's one thing. But I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but there are a lot of pieces and even some recent compositions that include sign language within the work itself in a way that I'm not sure is particularly empowering or rooted in a kind of cultural humility, but instead feels a little bit more, yeah, like choreography or like performance art. And I know when I speak with some of my friends who have studied and who communicate through ASL, they have different opinions about that. And I guess the best piece of advice I can give is to, one of the parts of disability justice is the leadership of those most impacted. And if there are folks in your community who communicate and know ASL, asking them about what seems to be the most respectful implementation that is empowering and not appropriating in any way. Anyway, complicated issue for sure. But it is true, though, I think that teaching ASL to a choir, it's like, okay, we're going to translate our piece into ASL, can be a really great tool for learning, right? And especially for those who learn kinesthetically or in a semantic way. So we have some members who have taught ASL to the chorus, and we're also learning the verses. This is our second verse. Each of us unique, love is what we share. United when we speak, joy is in the air. I need some help from you. And we have one member of our group who is also a participant at the Berklee Institute in some of the ensembles, the rock band, an amazing musician from the Perkins School for the Blind here in Boston named Sai Pittman, who immediately discovered that the chord progression we had come up with was the same as Sweet Home Alabama. So we wrote a parody to Sweet Home Alabama based on the rehearsal location where we meet, which is Holden Chapel. Sweet home, Holden Chapel, where I'm singing next to you. And I'll play that for you in a minute. Yeah, back to the songwriting. So we started with a lyric. And then how did we get the chords? How did we get the music? Well, what we did is we actually asked everyone to contribute a song that had been an earworm for them recently. And I don't know, maybe 12 or 14 people submitted a song, and we made a playlist. I think it was on YouTube. We made a YouTube playlist of this music. And then a couple of us, both members of the group and instructors of the group, gathered in my living room, and we picked, we just came up with 3 different types of very simple chord progressions, option A, B, and C. And they were different enough that it gave a clear choice for each person. And we literally voted which of these sounds, which of these vibes might go well with the theme that we've come up with. And once we had the chord progressions, once we sort of had that going in the beginning, then people just one at a time offered, to sing a phrase. And that's how we came to write the song. So I'm going to just play, this is like a virtual choir version of the song. It's only about 1.5 minutes or so, but I'll play it for you here. 2 minutes.
Singing
so that's our theme song. And yeah, and I think, you know, if repertoire is a struggle or a barrier, or even if it's not, you know, I think it can be a lot of fun to create a piece together. So this is another instance where you know, the work of Cambridge Common Voices has been kind of a resource of ingenuity for our other more traditional, typical choirs at Harvard. We mapped that same process and approach to the students of the Radcliff Choral Society, which is a treble choir at Harvard of about 60 members. And we did a similar project, but it was also kind of based on their interests and their forms of musical expression. They wanted to write a piece in response to Amanda Gorman's poem for the inauguration of Joe Biden last spring. And Amanda Gorman was one of their classmates from a few years ago. And so they took that idea of the hill we climb and wrote some reflections and some poetry, and then eventually a song where, you know, created kind of harmonies and different rhythms and counter melodies and things. So you know, that's a process that I think can be applicable to any type of group at any level and can draw upon those elements of universal design. It's sometimes easier in a creative endeavor than in one in which we're, you know, learning a piece that already exists, I guess is my point. Okay, so this is one of our favorites, Proud Mary. And this is going to show different ways for the students to contribute to the piece based on body percussion, ostinatos, solos, and so forth. So one of the things we would do here, I think I'm still sharing my sound. Yeah. We're going to go back to that improvisation. We love to play around with loops in our group. So here's a loop. I'll just play. No, that's not it. Here we go. So hopefully you're hearing that. So the first thing we do with our loops is we just start to kind of dance to it. Just sort of move our body around, whatever feels right for us. It could be super big and dramatic. It could be more subtle. I'm sorry about that little pause at the end. Normally it would just like loop back on. And then I might do call and response like I did in the warm-up, like ba-da-doo-da-dee-da, da-doo-da-dee-da, dee-da-da-da, dee-da-da-da, bum-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-da-ba-da, ba-da-dee-da, ba-da-da-dee-da. So just as we did in the warm-up, we would play around with that for a while and then break up into small groups and have everybody just kind of making up their own part in a dialogue with a neighbor, just some scat singing. You know, we're dancing while we do that. So we're just sort of being as playful as we can. And then, you know, we would review or listen to the song. We could listen to, you know, the Tina Turner version or the CCR version. And in our rehearsals, we would have this projected onto a screen. We would read it. Ideally, we would have, you know, some Braille notation. Sometimes it can be really hard to find a Braille printer. So for the students who access the lyrics in that way, often they'll just ask us to email them in advance a lyric sheet, usually through a Microsoft Word rather than a Google Doc. Microsoft is a little better in accessibility design. But we want to be sure that everyone can access this. So it'll be printed on paper, it'll be projected onto a screen, and also shared digitally if that's helpful for folks. Okay. So as this groove is going here, I'll get it back. Let me start it again. We're going to do this. We're going to do stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap, stomp. And we'll just do this for a little bit. Stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap, stomp, clap. So that becomes kind of an ostinato as this groove is going. And some people really love just stomping and clapping. Maybe some people just want to do the clap. Some people might just want to do the stomp. But we have these visual aids, as well as teacher or somebody demonstrating this stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, stomp, clap, clap. And we'll just get that going for a little bit. And then our next part is this little ostinato. And it goes like this: ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry, ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry. Try it. Ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry, ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry. So we have, 10 syllables. Really, we really only have 6 or 7, because these ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry. I guess we have 11 syllables, but it's repetitive, right? And you can see that we've drawn this line here to kind of represent the contour of the melody. Ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry. So do that over and over again as well, with the groove playing, maybe with a stomp, clap going on as well. And then the last one is a little bit higher, which is just 2 words: moving, grooving, moving, grooving, moving, grooving. And then we've got our 3. And so at that point, people can choose to do one or to jump back around for another. And we keep this going. And I might do this. Ain't got no worry, no, ain't got no worry. Moving, grooving, moving, grooving. Right, so different access points to this. And once we get that going a little bit, and then we can have our half the choir or a soloist just take over. Left a good job in the city. And then we're kind of off and running. So this is my colleague, Will, who sort of demonstrates how this works. It's just like a minute YouTube, which I'll play. Will is an alumnus of Dr. Bernard's graduate program, and the co-director of Cambridge Common Voices. Oops, come on.
Ain't got no worries, no, ain't got no worries. Ain't got no worries, no, ain't got no worries. Ain't got no worries, no, ain't got no worries. Ain't got no worries, no, ain't got no worries. Left a good job in the city, ain't got no worries. Working for the man, every night and day. And I never lost a minute of sleep, worried about the way he takes my damn thing. Big wheels keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning. Rolling, 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 rolling on the river.
And see that some improvisation in there with just kind of like emulating instruments. We do a lot of that too. Just like, let's pretend that someone has a sax solo and they can just kind of riff. This is like the polyphony, right? And the beauty about polyphony, whether it is a motet by Johann Sebastian Bach or something like this, is that it literally means many voices, right? Like everybody is bringing their unique voice, their ability, their interest, and not necessarily homogenized or boiled down. I mean, I love Gregorian chant. I just did a concert last night with a lot of Gregorian chant, and there's a beauty and artistry to that. But the thing about polyphony is achieving a kind of unity without uniformity, right? And you see that too, like in different traditions around the world, where there is a unified musical statement, but not necessarily a uniform expression of that statement. And that's fun to explore as well. Are we doing okay on time, Dr. Bernard?
Yeah, I think we should be looking at questions pretty soon,
Okay.
because Shane is going to start in about 15.
Okay. Yeah. So I can finish up here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. So I discussed other ways that we could extend this particular exercise with a chance to discuss ideas about texture, right? To improvise, and then to sort of move towards, okay, how do we want to share this, curate this, and perform this with the audience? With Cambridge Common Voices, that question often boils down to, how do we get the audience involved? And that's another thing that I really love about Cambridge Common Voices. I've also seen this with the ensembles at the Berklee Institute. For one reason or another, the sort of performer spectator binary, it gets like stripped down, right? It's like, why is it that there should be people just sort of sitting quietly while someone else is making music? And if you think about it too, it's like, yeah, of course, like if people want to sing along, we would do that at a Van Halen concert. We would do that, in a different like cultural settings around the world. I'm finding it more and more powerful to just be in spaces where large communities of people are singing. And that's another thing that has impacted the Harvard choirs, because CCV has made it such a priority that so many of our pieces involve audience participation. Now our students at Harvard said, well, we need to plan more community sings. We need to have a piece in our program where the audience is singing along. That was never part of the conversation before we started this group. And so that's been interesting to observe. We also use these, I don't know if this triggers some feelings one way or another, the solfege hand signs we often use. And this is an example. I won't go through it, but some people ask, do you guys sing in parts? And we do, and we teach parts in different ways. This is just sort of a 4-measure 16-beat groove that we teach one at a time, that ends up being the Awima way ostinato for The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And in the beginning we teach it with the solfege symbols, but then you can also see like these stop signs and arrows. That's vertical movement that we make. Let's see, well, moving back and forth based on where we are in the scale. So we'll actually put on the floor, here's do, here's sol, here's la, here's mi. And it's, people sort of jump around like you would if you were playing Twister or something, based on the solfege syllables. So people can sort of not even sing, but just sort of move together with their section. And then they start to feel into the parts a little bit. And then we also have an ostinato for this as well, just slap, clap, clap, stomp. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps, stomp tonight. So that was a part of this, and we end up singing it. This is a song we're working on now called Bravery. The words were written by a single member of our group, and we have divided up the verses for particular solos. And it's an interesting song because it doesn't really have a rhyming scheme, and nor does it have like predictable patterns. And so what we end up doing is assigning very different verses to different singers based on their range and their abilities, the ways in which they express themselves. So again, another opportunity to share a message, something creative and purposeful, and also tailor-made to the group. And we're still working on this. The arrows here are ways of indicating pitch level. And again, we haven't really come up with our own systematic way of notation, nor do I think we ever will. But that's kind of what we did in a pinch here. So, and this is a part where we have some counterpoint, and we make little files for very short recordings that we just did, like on a voice app on a smartphone, where we can teach a top and bottom part and then put together. Then, the rehearsal would come to announcements and random time. And this is sacred time in our rehearsal, a time to share, a time to listen. I think one of the most important things a choir can do, I find anyway, most people join a choir, not all, but most people join a choir for the music. They stay in choir for the relationships. And if we're in the business, if you want to call it that, of anything, to me, I think community building, relationship building through the endeavor of arts practice and arts education, and allowing everyone in the room to claim an identity as an artist. That's really important to us. Whether you're studying to be an engineer, whether you're like Sai, who, in high school at the Perkins School for the Blind, everybody has the right to be an artist. And even if the art you make is your life itself as a work of art, that might seem like a Hallmark card kind of philosophy of life, but I think we really try and live that, and think deeply about what it means to be an artist, not just who gets to be an artist. Yeah, these are just some, I'll share the slides with everyone as I wrap up. This is a call and response song from Melanie DeMore. You may know this. She wrote this the day of the Women's March in Washington. And call and response songs work really well, not just within teaching our group, but a great opportunity to connect with an audience. Again, then thinking about curating experiences for the audience. I'll skip through that. And then we have this other partner song, or a song that I won't play today, but it's kind of become it was our first original theme song. We didn't compose this song, but it's also written in such a way that even if you don't go by the voice parts, there are lines that are a little more complicated melodically and with the text, and then lines that are less so, that we plug people into. We don't always think of sopranos as like the highest voices. Sometimes we do. I'll skip through this. It's our theme song. Yeah, I'll just I'll stop there, and take any questions. I mean, like so many things, it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of just like picking up little pedagogical moves here and there. Of course, like being responsive to the students in the room. What I really appreciate about the work of the Berklee Institute for Arts Education Special Needs is that, finally we have a service organization, a networking organization to share these best practices and to learn from one another. I don't know about you, but this was not a class I had in my music education program. Even today, unfortunately, sadly, you might have one lecture, one short unit on working with diverse learning styles, and it is absolutely a lifelong pursuit. But I'm just so grateful for the mission of Bison and for everybody here to just build a community of learning and sharing, to make the musical life of everyone in our world, more accessible and meaningful, and little by little breaking down these barriers through creative approaches and trial and error, of which it really comes down to.
Absolutely. Let's take a moment. Thank you, Andy. And thank you for all that you shared today and for the kind words about our work. I love getting an inside under the hood peek at your rehearsals. Let's see if there are any questions or comments that come in before we make the passing of the baton to Shana. We'll give a little time because people are typing. Questions or comments for Andy? And as he mentioned, I'll be getting slides from both Andy and Shana. They will go out to you early in the week. Andy put his email in the chat, which is great. Questions, comments? A little more time. What it means to be an artist. Do you have some lists to go by or writings? How do you join the group?
I mean, you know, of famous philosophers, you know, from the ages have spent a lot of time thinking about, you know, what is art, right? Yeah, I guess maybe not so much writings or a list. I just think about exemplars. You know, I think we're at a time in our world where we need exemplars, you know, past and present, you know, those folks, and we all have them, the people who have shaped us. They may or may not be well known, but I had one teacher of mine say, you can't go from vocation to provocation without invocation. So let me unpack that a little bit. Let's say we all have a vocation. Our vocation is to be educators or to be artists or to be arts therapists. And, you know, we have a provocation. It's like, this is what I want to do. This is my why. This is how I want to contribute to my community, to my world. That provocation may be like revolutionary or disruptive, or it may just be tending to the garden of our place and time. You can't get from vocation to provocation without invocation, right? So what are we, or who are we invoking? You know, it could be our family, our parents, our teachers, the artists that we love, the people who have made an impact on us. And I think about that more and more, just especially trying to get through the days. The days have been hard, and this world that we live in is so harsh and troubled. And what is the best of the tradition that formed us that we can invoke in order to be fortified? I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just I think to be able to operate in this time and place requires a kind of spiritual fortification, because there's so much spiritual decay around us. And you know, I'm as interested in what all of you think, and how all of you you know, consider what it means to be an artist and who gets to be an artist. How do you join the group? You join the group just by reaching out to us. We actually don't have auditions. Our onboarding is very informal. We invite folks to come do a test run rehearsal. We have a little conversation about what everyone's hopes and desires are. That's another way that CCV has impacted the Harvard choruses. Before in auditions, we would have this sheet of all the technical things we were evaluating, but we never asked the singers in the college choir, why do you want to be in this group? What song do you have on your heart? What is it that you want to share?
Yeah.
And yet another way that like this work has permeated into these more conventional contexts. I'm fascinated by your work. Thank you. And on occasion when I am planning a class, I feel that I can't do many things, but this is an example of how many possibilities we have. I feel the same way. I think there's always this voice, negative self-talk we engage in of what our limitations are. And certainly we do have practical limitations and barriers, but I would also say that most of the discoveries that I've stumbled upon have been by chance and by luck and by listening. Yeah. And convenings like this too, of connecting with other people and learning from them.
I want to thank you, Andy. I think we all do, for all that you shared today. Between the two sessions, so much valuable information. And your perspective on it all, living in all these different worlds that you live in choir land is pretty amazing. So thank you. we're going to set you free for the rest of
Okay,
your
thanks,
Saturday.
everyone.
And we'll get the slides soon and we'll get everything out to people. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And I will share the slides this afternoon with Dr.
Awesome.
Bernard. Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And now we're going to do a 1-minute stretch while Shana and I just get the technology perfectly happening the first time. So we'll come back in 1 minute with Shana Pistilli. So take a moment, take a break. And Shana's already making that slideshow happen.
I'm going to tell you where to move.
Okay, so all of that is working. We have the little thing in the upper right corner again. But definitely it's share it with the optimized audio because that works. Same, oh, okay, now it's smaller. It's just there. For some reason, Zoom does this to me too sometimes. I don't know why.
I don't know how to get rid of it. If
You're
I move
good.
it, okay.
Just leave it. You're
Okay.
good. If you see that it's going to cover over something that you have to show people, move it. But
Right.
I
don't
think that's the smallest you can make it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to cover anything.
Yeah, I think you're good. Awesome. Let's give people another 30 seconds. We will
Absolutely.
get rolling. It's good to see you. No cat interruptions.
I know she's been pretty chill.
I'm surprised.
I mean, I guess she knows it's Saturday. She briefly came in earlier, but it was during a video. She's chilling on the couch right now. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe she'll show up earlier after her nap, her 10th nap of the day.
I envy the naps, please.
Me
If
too.
only. I would love a 10 nap day. Waiting for it.
Yeah, my kids know her well from the pandemic because she was all about being in lessons.
I'm sure. I think we should get rolling. So welcome back, everyone, from our little stretch. We are pleased to bring you Shana Pistilli, who is going to talk about inclusive instrumental ensembles, and you're going to learn a lot about color coding and adaptive notation. I know she will introduce herself and her background, so I'm going to hand it off to Shana.
Hello again and happy afternoon. Yes, I am Shana Pistilli, currently in Center City, Philadelphia, and I teach in a Delaware County public school about 30 minutes outside the city, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade elementary band. And yes, we do start in 3rd grade. I always reiterate that because it's not very heard of in our world. So let's get started. I do want to do a schedule real quick. 2 quick review slides from this morning, just about who I have sitting in front of me in terms of my students and why I do the things I do. I pulled up an ADHD simulation for you to do. It's one of my favorite things to do during these presentations. I actually had one of my special ed teachers have us sit through it in one of her presentations at school, and then we will dive into details in the ensemble strategies I talked about earlier, the color-coded adaptive notation, where Tom is now, my student from earlier. I have a video of him rocking out, and then some more time for questions at the end after we get into some more detailed stuff. So just a reminder, my profiles right now of the students I have in band: specific learning disability, ADHD, autism, 1 visual impairment. Again, I just have to make her pages bigger, and you can do that on a copy machine. You just raise the percentage. Speech and language impairment, and then a couple kids with anxiety, and specifically one with trichotillomania, which is the hair pulling type of anxiety, which she mainly does in her sleep, but sometimes we see come around during the school day, especially in heightened anxiety-ridden situations, which can sometimes be a hectic ensemble rehearsal. So barriers for these kids when you're in those large ensembles, it is a large group setting, which oftentimes isn't ideal for them. There's varying levels of experience, especially in elementary land, because there's kids just getting started. There's kids who've been playing for a few years. There's kids who are taking private lessons. There's kids who are not taking private lessons. That can be a real difference in playing. Sensory overload comes on pretty quick. Self-monitoring and following along within a rehearsal when there's a lot going on and they don't necessarily have a teacher sitting right near them. And then note decoding and comprehension, and that's where the adapted notation comes in. So this is the simulation. If you have headphones nearby or headphones in, I think it works better with headphones in. And even though it's not a simulation for during a rehearsal. I want you to try to imagine that you're in a rehearsal and everything that's going on is, you know, the clicking of instrument keys, the kids calling out, the asking what measure we're at, and, you know, stuff like that. So although this isn't necessarily a brain break, it's kind of the opposite. I apologize. It'll kind of get you into the mindset of talking about all these strategies coming up and how they would help a kid who's sitting in a rehearsal with all this going on.
I'm going to tell you where to move each animal card so every animal ends up in the right place on the grid. You ready? Everyone take the snake card. Now look at the grid. Put the snake card on the camel in the grid. Got it? Good. Now take the bird card and put it on the kangaroo in the grid. Dylan, are you with us? Okay. Now take the monkey. Put it on the grid.
I don't have a monkey.
Is that yours on the floor? Now find the kangaroo card.
Oh, he's mom's friend too, remember?
Emma and Maddie, pay attention. Dylan, are you with us? Okay, now everyone, look at the octopus.
Ew, weird.
Now look for the elephant. Jacob and Sophia, please stop. Put the elephant on the board. I want you to place the rhino on top.
We saw dino. I saw rhinoceros at the zoo when I went with my mom.
Put the monkey on the chair. Jaden, don't interrupt.
I don't have any
And then
animal
put the shot on
butt.
the
Miss
elephant and on the
Aldano, my
Put the
game is missing a piece.
Ready? Now flip your cards over.
So again, that is, you know, probably, you know, a kindergarten class example, but if you can try to put yourself into a rehearsal setting, especially in elementary, you have, you know, my valve fell out, my valve is sticking, what song are we on? What measure are we on? You know, somebody starts humming their melody, somebody starts clicking their chair, something like that. And for our kids who are going to get sensory overloaded and distracted and have trouble getting through this, it's a little example of kind of, you know, what they're experiencing sitting in the middle of all that. And the first time I did this, it was a little intense. So I like to start with that. Oh, we're not going to do it again, I promise. So strategies for these ensembles, a big overview, and then we will get into each one individually. So assessing classroom environment, understanding sensory limits and needs, providing structure and breaks. Some people probably say, well, how can you put breaks into an ensemble? There's so much to do. I agree. It's kind of hit or miss, but I've also noticed that having at least one break scheduled in kind of helps it run more smooth because the kids need a break, I need a break, and it's, you know, it's not so hectic in the end trying to get through because our brains got that little break for a second. Nonverbal communication, how I check in with kids during rehearsals, and then the notation part of it would be the tiered parts, modifying method books, and adapting notation. So for assessing classroom environment, easy access to an exit is really important for a lot of my kids. Like I had said earlier, I do not have the most ideal teaching environment. I am in one building, I'm on the stage during gym class in a Kappa gymatorium, which means our morning rehearsals are happening during breakfast. So lose there, everything. And I only have a curtain, and then I have one door, which is the back of the stage where you would come up, you know, for a performance. So I make sure that that door is always open, and then I make sure that the kids setup is easy access to get right at that door if they need to go for a break or, get out to the bathroom or anything like that. Limiting clutter is another big one. I know me as a person and as an adult, clutter stresses me out more. It can get a little tough with percussion and needing to have percussion set up, you know, closer to the concert. But I try to find like shelving, like bookshelves and stuff on like Facebook Marketplace, or there's a bunch, you know, on the street in Center City. And I try to put stuff away as much as possible. And all my percussionists know where things belong. Not only that, I'll cover them. So the kids aren't looking at a bookshelf full of stuff, which could still be cluttering to your eyes and your brain. It's completely covered. So it's just, you know, a sheet. And that kind of takes away from knowing that there's a lot of stuff back there. Consistent setup, sitting in the same chair for every lesson, every rehearsal. I mean, I remember in college, even in high school, we didn't have assigned seat, but everybody had their chair, their seat that they went to, and it kind of gave you like a sense of comfort knowing that that was your seat for the day. So it's the same thing here. I set up the chairs the same way. The kids know, I'll assign them in the beginning sometimes, depending on the group and the kids, and they know that that's their chair that they'll go to every lesson. And then rehearsals is really important because I have certain kids in certain areas for easy exit, or for having less people around and less sensory, so that consistency is really helpful. And then to share stands or not to share stands, I really don't care either way. I do have kids who share stands, especially for concerts and stuff, just because there's less clutter on the stage. But for some of my kids, it actually gives them anxiety to share a stand with somebody because they're focusing more on what that kid's doing, not necessarily on purpose. It's just their anxiety, watching the kid next to them. If they have their own stand in their own little area, they're much easier. It's much easier for them to just focus on what they're doing and what's going on in their brain, on their music. So it takes that little piece of anxiety away from sharing with someone. Understanding sensory needs, limits, and needs. So the placement in the room, this can be tricky for ensembles, especially if you have a setup like I do. But trying to put kids who need less sensory input or an easy out on the end of a line, or if you're in an arc, maybe towards the back of the arc near the door, that does mean that they might be around more people, but you can check in with them and they might say that they'd rather be closer to the door than, on the end, which is farther from the door. Designated break space and plan. I touched on this earlier. On the stage, I don't necessarily have a place for a break, but I have an office next door of she's a reading specialist. And her and I are good friends, and she knows that whenever I have rehearsals, it's before school, so she doesn't have kids yet. And she allows kids to come over there if they need to, and it's right next door. And it's actually nice for me because I know there's an adult in there. And then the other thing is the plans that we have that I touched on earlier, which is taking a lap, going to the bathroom, or saying hi to the counselor. Headphones and earplugs are biggies. I get the bins of the foam earplugs that they can always grab as they come in or in the middle of rehearsal if they're having a bad brain day, is what I call it. And then these little blue musicians earplugs, I actually include these on the list of things for parents to buy if they, for band. I make it optional, obviously, if their kid wants it, but with their like reeds and binder and valve oil and all that stuff, I give them the link to it's an Amazon link. They're like $10. So a couple of them have those. They work really well. And then the picture up here with the girl with the pink shirt and the pink shoes, these are the rubber bands that I was talking about earlier, where you put them on the bottom of the chair and then their feet can kind of rest on them and they can bounce a little bit, or they can push on it for, try to get some sensory. So it works well for autism, works well for ADHD. It can get a little out of hand if the kid is really getting into it. Stuff like this definitely have to have expectations laid out up front. Most of my kids know my expectations pretty well. I spend a lot of time going over with them. So they don't really try to push me on it. And this works out really well. Now, some people might say, sitting up straight, back off the chair, feet flat on the floor for an ensemble or for band. And I say, well, that might not be the best position for some of the kids to play well. So it's totally okay with me to have rubber bands. I even have kids that sometimes ask to stand in the back, and I'm fine with that as well. As long as you're, my rule is always, as long as you're not distracting anybody else, and as long as it's going to help you in the moment, then that is okay. So rubber bands, standing in the back. I'd rather the rubber bands than the standing because they can still be in the ensemble, but the standing does work as well. So structure is a really big thing for all kids, but especially for our different learners. Having clear expectations and the goal laid out for the day, knowing which songs you want to hit, knowing the sections of each song that you want to hit, maybe which the flutes need to work on measure 5 to 10 of this song, and having that laid out on the board, as well as a printout that they can take with them to their seat, because they either can't see the board anymore, or they'd rather have it right in front of them, or like I said earlier, they like to check stuff off as they go. So having this for their individual weekly lessons, as well as for whole group rehearsals, a little bit more important for the whole group rehearsals, since the lessons are a lot smaller, it's a lot easier to kind of, move stuff around. But the whole group ensemble ones, I've noticed the schedule is very important. And then if possible, sometimes it's not possible, but if possible, coming up with the schedule for the rehearsal ahead of time, and certain kids like to see it ahead of time. It will help with the anxiety of knowing what's coming. And then preparing transitions. The way that I do the preparing transitions within a rehearsal is I would call out, we're running this piece, this is the last time, and then say what's next. So just vocalizing what's written on the schedule, because they may have not read that part of the schedule, or they just may like to hear it. It's just a reminder for them of what's coming next, and keep them engaged and on track with what we're doing. So this is an example of the way I would lay out a rehearsal. It would be written on the board, and again, it would be in a handout, and I just put the handouts on a music stand by the door, and they can grab one when they come in if they want. So it starts with instrumental setup and individual warm up. Now the second bullet says 8:15. That is the only time that I would put a time on a schedule, because if I try to put myself in a box of hitting this, these times on each bullet, there's no way that would be possible, and it would cause more stress, honestly. So the only time that I put in is the time that we are all starting together, which is 8:15. At 8:15, full group warm up number 3 and 7. They can have it ready. They know that everybody's playing. And the next thing is the song. And again, full group play through exactly what numbers that we are playing. Now, because I put what numbers, then in the individual warm-up, since they have this schedule in front of them, they're able to actually, if they're anxious about playing that during their warm-up, they can go touch on those, that section themselves. And it helps with the anxiety of playing through that if they're worried about it, or it helps their brain know exactly what to expect for the day. So first is full group, and then under that, I would write section check-ins, and I would put my order for the section check-ins. It's kind of like, what's it called? Popcorn reading, where people get really anxious about reading in class because they're, randomly going to be called on. I take the guessing game out. I say, this is the order we're going in. The flutes are going to be first, clarinets are going to be first. Okay. And, it'll switch up every rehearsal, but I always let them know at what point their section is going to be playing as just their section. I rarely do individual playing within a large ensemble, unless it's someone who has a solo in a song. That's the only time they would play in front of the entire group. Obviously in their lesson, they're going to be playing by themselves sometime. And again, I would prep them for that and get them ready for that ahead of time. So then we would go back to a full group playthrough, and I put that after that because now the kids are trying to follow along. We're all going to play it. I'm going to have to sit quietly, hopefully, for a little bit while the sections check in, and then we're all going to come back and we're all going to play through again. And then we would stretch or break, because that was a whole song and it was a lot. So for our little breaks as a group, we just stand up and reach for the sky, reach for our toes, do 5 jumping jacks, sit back down. The word break doesn't necessarily have to be like 5 minute, go to the bathroom, go get water or whatever. It's just a quick refresh your brain, move your body a little bit, get the blood flowing, and then get back to work. And it seems to actually really help all my kids, but especially the kids who are trying to keep up within a rehearsal. And then, again, we would finish up with high hopes and percussion, and then everyone. So that's just an example of the way that I would write out a schedule. Again, I only put one time in there. That's our starting time. I would not try to kill myself putting a time on each bullet. That would not go well. Now, what happens if a change does need to be made for this in the middle of it, because that does happen. It's band, it's elementary. I would just pause for a second. I might move the break up, like say I decide not to do the second full group playthrough and I want to go straight to high hopes. So I would move the stretch up to after the section check-ins. And once we sit back down, I would say, okay, we stretched, quick change, give them a second. And I would say, we're going to go straight to high hopes, just to let them know. And usually they don't really fight me on it. I haven't had many issues with that. But that's how I would handle a change. I would put it around within the stretch of the break. So it's not like all of a sudden while they're in the middle trying to do other stuff. So let's talk about breaks. Planned breaks, like I said, group stretching, group breathing. Breathing is a big one. One of my new, I saw it somewhere, I don't remember where I saw it, but you do a clap rhythm, or if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. My new one is, if you can hear me, take a deep breath in and out. Also add silently, some of them go, so if you can hear me, take a silent deep breath in, take a silent deep breath out. We do a lot of breathing together. Helps bring kids back down, helps bring me back down with running these rehearsals. Yeah, but I really like that. And then again, our break area and our plans. So the clear expectations is really important with this. I spent a lot of time on this in their lessons, as well as the first few rehearsals. You are allowed to take breaks with me. I'm not going to say no, but you cannot take advantage of it. You take one lap, you go say hi to the counselor, you go to the bathroom, you come back. And I have a pretty good rapport with my kids. I really try to build relationships. I know we hear that all the time, but I do really try to build relationships, and it just helps with them not pushing your boundaries, them wanting to do well with you, and them knowing that you care about them and that you want to see them do well. Fidgets. Do I allow fidgets in band? Yes, I do. I know that's kind of a wild thought, but again, it comes with the expectation that they're not going to push the boundary, and the second they do, they lose their fidget. They know that. Only quiet fidgets, so no fidget spinners, no poppets. It's more like just little finger things. I actually show them all my ring. I have a fidget ring that I use, so they see me fidget all day. So I think that kind of helps them in, the fact that some of them need to fidget. Like literally I fidget with this all day, so we're all fidget buddies. It's all good. And then they also know that the expectation is, if we're going to play, if you should be actively playing your instrument, then your fidget is on your stand. I don't bother with in pockets, out of pockets. It just goes right on the stand, so it's easier. And then the rubber band on the chair, I really like those because it's out of their hands. They can just bounce their feet a little bit, or they can push on it, or they can pull on it, and they're pretty sturdy. They're on Amazon. I think it's like $15 or something. It wasn't very expensive, so I can send that link out later if need be. Nonverbal communication check-ins. I'm really big on these because, one, it's hard to stop a rehearsal to check in on a kid to see how they're doing. Two, kids don't like to be called out. So I do thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle for everybody. First of all, I say something and then I say, is that understand? Do we understand? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. How we doing? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Thumbs in the middle. So that works for everybody. And then I have a few kids where I have different check-ins. Some of my ADHD kids and kids who struggle to make it through a rehearsal focus, we check in with brain taps. So I'll look over to Dylan and catch his eye, and then I'll tap my head and I'll give him a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. He'll tap his, he'll give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. If he gives me a thumbs up, we're good. We keep going. I check in again in a little. If he gives me a brain tap with a thumbs down, I usually give him a break. I know this is bathroom, but it's just what we use because they all know it from kindergarten. So I usually give him a break and then a point, and it tells him to go to the bathroom, take a break, or I'll give him a lap and a point, and he knows to go take a lap. So he's pretty good about that. We got a little routine going. And then the chest taps are for my anxiety kids. And that's because usually I use that to differentiate, my brain is struggle focusing or I'm feeling anxious. So my little girl with trichotillomania, her and we do the chest taps. So again, it's the same thing. I catch her eye, chest tap, good, not good, whatever. She taps, she gives me a good, we're good to go. I'll check in a little. Chest tap, she gives me a not good, same thing, break, go, lap, go, or counselor, I'll just say counselor, go, or something like that. So that works for her. And they know that, well, first of all, they like that I check in on them. I know 45 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but it's a long time and when there's a lot going on. And then, so they like that I check in on them, and they like that I say to go and I say yes. I never fight them on the fact. I never say, oh, you don't need a break, or in 5 minutes or something. If you're telling me you need a break, you're doing a great job advocating for yourself, and you're going to go take a break, you're going to come back, we're going to be good. So I really like nonverbal communication within that large setting. It helps a lot. All right, so music notation. A lot of kids, when they first see music, it's going to look like this in their brain. There are days where music still looks like this in my brain, so I understand. So different things that I use: tiered parts, easy peasy, giving them different options, harder parts, parts in the middle, and then easier parts. Giving them the option to choose which one they feel most comfortable with gives them a little sense of pride, student-centered learning. But because I wrote it and I was able to tailor it to their ability, they're able to they're usually all able to handle each part. It's just a matter of what they feel most comfortable with. I like them having the option to play something they're comfortable with because it helps with their confidence. Modify method books. Again, I hate method books, and I will get into some of the modifications that I do. They're just really cluttered. So I use some paper to declutter. I take exercises and I rewrite them outside of the method book, and I just put together a little folder of stuff. It just helps for them to not see as much on the paper. And then the color notation. There's a couple different levels of that: full color and picture, which I kind of sneak peeked to you this morning, just color, and then color reference is what I call it, where there's like a dot underneath the note. So this is an example of a tiered part. I forget what song this is, but the flutes can choose flute 1, flute 2. Clarinets can choose clarinet 1, clarinet 2. There might be times where I give out certain parts, but a lot of the time I say, these are the 2 parts. Which one do you think you're more comfortable with? And sometimes the kids will pick the flute 1 part and say, I'm really struggling, can I try the flute 2 part? And I say, absolutely. You think you can come back to the flute 1 part in a few weeks and keep working on it? Sure, cool. And then same thing, they'll pick the flute 2 part and they'll say, Miss P, this is really easy. Can I try the part 1? I'll say, absolutely, you're a rock star, let's do it. And then we're good to go. So tiered parts, totally good with that. Method books. So this is Sound Innovations, I believe. There's so much going on this paper. Okay, this is the 3rd, 4th, 5th page, something like that. It's really early on in the book. So I understand why they want to give all this information out, but I don't think kids need all this information right now. Like a kid that's learning how to play hot cross buns doesn't necessarily need to know what a fermata is. A kid that is learning how to play hot cross buns doesn't necessarily need to know what a repeat sign is. So it's just a lot on the page, and they're going to try to read it all and decipher it all, and it's going to distract them from the one thing that you actually want them to do, which is learn how to play the song. So I just take the song out and we just play the song. It's a lot easier, they're a lot more comfortable, there's less going on, and it's easier for them to just do what you're asking them to do, which is play the song. So that's what I do. I think this is Sound Innovations. Whichever one it is, I've gone through so many and I have the same opinion about all of them. There's too much clutter, there's too much information. Just in the beginning, just let them learn their notes and their fingerings and bring all that other junk in later. Sometimes taking the time to rewrite every single piece within a method book takes a lot of time and can be very annoying and time consuming. So I thought about I had a piece of paper that I would use for kids, but I would have to hold it up and stuff. So one day I was like, well, why don't I just like MacGyver something? So I MacGyvered this piece of paper, it's like 2 or 3 pieces of paper, but it works and I highly suggest it because you can use it over and over again. And it's basically just a bunch of pieces of paper put together, and then I can fold it and slide it up and down for, whichever piece they're learning. So this is just how I did it, and what it looks like after.
Dr. Cooley, bus the office, please.
So yeah, easy peasy fix to decluttering a method book, just covering up all the junk, and takes a lot less time than going in and putting each song into its own page. All right, so color notation. There's a few different levels to this. Full color and picture, which is what you see right here, which means the notes have color in them. It has the fingering pictures, and the fingering pictures have color in them. This is, I think this is Star Wars. A school out in California contacted me about putting some stuff together for them, and this is what I did for them. After this would be color and rhythm. Some students need help with the rhythms of notes, which makes sense. And that's when the bars come in that you saw on my piano student. And then just, the color notation or the color reference, which is a dot underneath or just the color of the note if I have time to do it electronic. So I like to play this video. This is actually from right before the pandemic. He's a 5th grader now and he's off his colors, but this was right in the beginning. And this is just a little bit of how I would take him through working on his notes and his colors. I like this video because he actually started singing at some point. I did not give him the note. He just started singing the notes, which was kind of cool to experience. But yeah, so here is the saxophone player.
Colors first.
B, G.
Colors.
Red, red, red. Orange, orange, orange. Yellow, yellow, yellow. Red.
Notes.
G, G, G. A, 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 A. B, B, B. G.
Good. Just notes.
B, A, G. A, G, A. G, B, A. Oh. G, A, G.
Good job.
So in his book, I had just colored with either a color pencil or crayon, I don't remember, just colored his notes because it was just easy to do on the spot. He worked off of colors for probably almost a year, maybe a little less than that. And then I was able to kind of, tear him down from it, and he's doing great now. He's, going up to middle school soon. So that was cool. Okay, so I wanted to show these because this touches on the whole, I don't have time to always go in electronically and do this for every song on every instrument and every kid. So I agree, I don't have time to do that, but I do have a little repertoire that I've built for myself, and I will eventually get templated out to people. But that doesn't mean that I still can't do it. All I do is I actually brought them. I have some nice little color. These are pens. These are Bic pens, but pencils work. Crayons sometimes work. They're a little tougher because they're thicker. And I just put their fingerings in, or I color the notes like I did with him, or I do the dots, or you can see here I had started the bars. So these 2 pictures on the bottom, they're actually one page. So at the top, the student was on, still needing the fingering charts. When we got to the second song, I took those away. Well, I kind of took those away. I left them in the beginning, and then I gave them the colored bars. And then by the end, when we were checking what they knew, it was just the dots. So along with this being a resource and a strategy for these students, it's also, a way for me to assess how they're doing. I will do colors for them, 1, 2, maybe 3 times, and then they put them in on their own. And that's a way for me to see, okay, they do know these notes, they know these colors, and then I can start to take them away from them, and then we'll only, use colors for new notes, if that makes sense. So for name the notes, I had said, put your dot on the top. So he went through and he put the colors and then put your letters on the bottom, and he was able to name them. So as well as a great tool for helping the kids, also a great assessment tool for us. So how do I introduce them knowing what color goes to what instrument and what fingers go to, what color goes to what note and what fingers go to what note? This is an example of a coloring page for a flute. I would have one of these for each instrument, obviously. And every time we learn a new note, they write the letter, they draw it in that color. So I'll let them use my pens, or we'll get their colored pencils from class. We'll draw it on the staff, and then we'll color in the fingers. And I have them do this themselves, and then they keep this in their binder. So every time they learn a new note, they write the letter, they have their color. So if we're doing B flat, they have a red, they write it, they draw it on the staff, and then they color in the fingers. And every time they learn a new one, we add it to this page, and this page stays in their folder. So it's worked out really well. It's also a good reference for them within a rehearsal. If they're struggling on a note, I can just quickly say, quickly go look back, or they can quickly look back on their own. But this is how I get them started with their colors and learning their notes in general, but with their colors. So this is an example of colors and rhythms. This is a piece from my concert this past spring. We did a Beatles concert, if you couldn't tell from earlier. So the colors and the bars are in this, and I used colored pencils for this, obviously. So a smaller bar, kind of more like a dot for quarter notes, and then the bar for the half notes is going to take up half the measure, and then so on and so forth for longer notes, whole notes. Now the tied notes, I was trying to explain to them that they're two different notes, but they're played together. So the student ended up making it two different notes, which was fine. We just went back and talked about it later on, not a big deal, but those should be connected. So this is trumpet. So their colors match their notes, and their rhythms help them follow along in terms of how long that note is. So I've found a lot of success in this. I have about probably 5 or 6 kids on this right now. And some of them are starting to not need it anymore. And they're telling me that. They're saying, I don't think I need my colors today. I'm saying, that's awesome, you're a rock star, let's take them out. So, this really allows my kids to advocate for themselves and kind of take control of their learning. And I see a lot of pride within them when they come up to me and say, I don't need my colors anymore. So it's cool. And then this would be just that colored reference. I have a lot more kids on this right now than on the bars. So they put their one dot for that note. They only get one because there's a couple in a row. And then earlier I had mentioned trying to figure out accidentals when I first started this. So if you notice in, where's the first one? Measure 11, there's just a pink flat so that they know B is pink and it's a B flat. So it's a pink flat. And then so say it was an F sharp, it would be a green sharp. And that's how I got away with accidentals. If you notice the B natural in measure, 8, I just left it as a B. So yeah, that's how I figured out accidentals. This kind of shows how hard yellow is in terms of this process. The markers come out better. The electronic stuff comes out better. When it's a pencil or something like that, or it doesn't come out so well, I just outline it in black, or I outline it in like a darker yellow or something like that, just to make it pop a little more. And I've never had a kid complain about that. They still know that it's yellow. So that's my way of trying to get around yellow. I guess we have time for this. So this is a second lesson. This is actually a lesson with the girl, the snapshot from this morning. The IEP snapshot. This was during the pandemic, so she was already struggling a little bit, and I had actually realized that I took her colors away too quickly this week, the week that we were doing this, and this was the second part of a lesson where we put our colors back in and we worked on it, and then she got like really excited at the end. So it's kind of a cool lesson to watch.
All right, so you're on the third measure. First note is orange. What's the letter?
The letter.
Orange is
D.
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 Good. What's the next note? Red.
Red is C.
Good. Then you go back to orange.
D.
Then you go to yellow.
E.
Good. So say the letters of that measure.
Can I start to the beginning and then go?
Sure.
So
First three measures, go ahead.
F, and then G, and then two Fs.
Good. Keep going.
C, and
Then the tough measure.
then the top measure is D, C, and E.
You skipped one of your D's.
Oh, two Ds.
Yep. So your third measure, D, C, D, E, or
Okay.
orange, red, orange, yellow.
Can I start, do the start, the beginning first, and
Let's-
then the,
Let's add on the fourth measure, and then you can do the whole first half. So look at the fourth measure. It's two of what note?
fourth measure.
Yep, it's two half notes. They're blue. They're green.
They're green. F.
F, 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 F. Good. All right, go ahead. Go back to the beginning and say the first four measures. You want to play it? Okay, go ahead. You were right.
I was right.
You were right.
I was right.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
Wait, which one was it?
So go start at the beginning again since you got lost. You surprised yourself because you were right. Okay, so start at the beginning. Just keep going.
So she kept going from there. We were able to get through the whole exercise, and I think another one after that. So yeah, it's just another example of integrating these colors and helping these students learn these notes and remember these notes and be confident in what they're doing and what they're learning. I'm sure you could hear the excitement in her voice. One, when she said the letters right, and two, when when I told her she was right because she paused. She talked earlier about a rainbow of colors. Could you explain the use of that again? Yes, I will get into the rainbow. Can I do that later on? I'll get into the rainbow at the end when we're doing questions and stuff.
All right.
Okay, so we're not going to watch this again, but there was a question this morning about the hands, and I realized that I did have his hands picture set up next to his music. So if you look, I don't know if you can see my mouse, to the right of his music is the diagram of the hand that I was talking about. So I do place that up next to him while he's playing. So right now I don't want to put that. Right now we're playing this song with his right hand. So the diagram of his right hand is up next to the song that he's playing. So I know that was a question earlier, so I wanted to point that out. No. So here is that diagram for both of them. I just move it back and forth for whatever hand he's playing. If we haven't quite made it to two-hand playing yet, once we get there, I'll have to figure that out. My thought is to basically just have a little picture of a hand, up with whatever section he's playing. And then here's a better close-up of what the music he has. So one line is one measure. So with the colors, I base it off of the concert B flat scale. So his C is red. So his clarinets, what you saw earlier, their C is red. Clarinet C is red. Flutes and trombones, B flat is red. Saxophones, G is red. So with my band kids, it's just concert B flat scale. They're all going to be, that note is all going to be red for all of them. And that's, again, the reasoning is when we're in rehearsal and we always warm up with our B flat scale, concert B flat scale, then my students who are on this and they're confused about what we're doing, they can get their color sheet out and they can follow along a lot easier. That kind of touches on the rainbow thing a little. So his next step, he actually just started this 2 weeks ago is I put the letters into his music. And he, on his own, started to put together the letters on the page and the letters on the keyboard or the piano, because the colors are down there. So I can sit with him now and I can point to a key with the color on it and I can say, what note is this? And he'll be able to say it's G because he's matching up the colors. And now that I gave him the letter reference, he can now match up the letters. So that's really cool. He actually started doing that on his own. I noticed one day that he was playing and he was just saying letters. So I started to kind of, take him through what note is this, what letter is this, what letter is this, what letter is this, and he was just banging them out. So that's awesome. That's not always going to happen, but that started happening with him. So I kind of took advantage of it and ran with it. After we get through that, we're not here yet, but this would be the next step with him, to take him into that notation that, I use it with my band kids, where it's on traditional music notation and it's on the note and the bar for the rhythm. Since he's used to his bar for rhythms, I'm going to leave them in there for a little bit, and then I'll eventually take those out, and then I'll eventually take the colors off the notes and he'll be on traditional notation. That's the thought, that's the plan. If that happens, awesome. If that doesn't happen, we'll figure it out then. If it takes 2 years, it'll take 2 years. Where right now we're just enjoying playing the piano, and his mom is enjoying him play actual songs on the piano. So I'm totally fine with that. And what we've been doing has, worked so far. So I'm just going to keep, chugging along and come up with things as I go. So people were asking about resources later and how I do some of these things. So good old, pen, paper, colored pencils, they work great still. Not everything has to be technology, but when it is technology, I do prefer NoteFlight, just because it's an easier interface for me and my brain. Words and pages is what I use when putting bars and the fingering charts together. I found a snapshot of my pages document of how I do that. I've used pages a lot more recently because I got a Mac for work, like an updated Mac. And then sometimes I use Adobe PDF editor. I don't like it that much. It's kind of hard to use. I'd rather just go into pages and then make a PDF out of it. But yeah, these are the things I use. But I stand by this being still one of the best resources we have, even with all this technology stuff. So this is NoteFlight over here, and how you get colors onto notes. They already have all these colors laid out, which I kind of like, because then I don't have to, go through the wheel and figure out which one I like best. They've kind of done that work for me. I end up using Mustard a lot, or Classroom F for yellow when I'm in NoteFlight. I talked a little bit about Sibelius earlier, so I pulled it up, how it's just too much. If you can see, I circled it, they have you go through the color wheel, and my brain cannot figure out which part of the 50,000 reds is the red that I need. So that's why I find NoteFlight much easier. And NoteFlight's, super easy to use. You can get a free account. You can pay for a bigger account. I've used it for years, I think, since I was in high school. So I'm super comfortable with it. And then here's the pages document. So you basically just make a square, make it the size you want. You can make one, and then you can copy and paste the rest. And then in the right menu, you're able to just change the color. And that's how I do that. So I'll put all of them in, and then I'll just go through and redo all the colors. And then, I have it forever, so I can use it for another kid, or I can go in and I can change the sizes and make another song. And, there's a lot that you can do after you have some stuff already made. So real quick, I want to touch on Tom and where he's at and how he's doing. So so again, Tom was one of my students at my first school, the Vanguard School, and he was in high school at the time. So by that time, he was already, an incredible musician doing great things. But I bring him up because, again, had Jared and Rob, okay, well, let me back up. Had his parents not gone through the work of finding, these resources and being turned down so many times, and the frustration of, people questioning if Tom could actually take music lessons, had his parents not gone through all that, Tom would not be who he is. And had Jared and Rob not taken him on, Tom would not be who he is. So I actually work with Tom once a week now. We do tutoring sessions for just college in general. They're kind of just like general how to be a music major tutoring sessions. So, you know, we go over theory and we go over orals, and we'll talk about how to plan for, you know, he has to go to this recital, what does he have to wear, just, you know, stuff basic getting through music school tutoring sessions, which like I kind of wish I had back then. So he finished his gen ed classes at a community college outside of Westchester. He's currently a music elective major at Westchester, which is where I did on my undergrad. So that's very exciting and heartwarming. And he's a piano major, and he's playing a bunch of community gigs around, and he pulls me into some of them, which is super fun. But I pulled up this video because had his parents not gone through everything that they went through, had Jared and Rob not figured it out, then this musician would not be who he is. So take a listen to this. So that is Tom. It's funny, he is a piano major, but he's obviously an amazing guitarist as well. So yeah, I just like to bring him up because, you know, had all that work not happened to get him into music lessons, Tom would not be Tom. And there's, you know, there's a lot more Toms in the world. So I like this quote, and then I do want to answer that rainbow question. All students can learn and succeed, but not in the same way and not in the same day. And that basically just is every kid that you see, every student sitting in front of you is different. Learns in a different way, has a different brain, has a different, you know, body and sensory input. And it's just important to learn who they are, not necessarily the words that are written on their IEP, and just learn who they are and how they learn, and do what you can to help them. So we are gonna have questions, and I forgot to ask earlier if anybody caught the Elementary Bandland concert video, but I think it was Layla. So the rainbow for me, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink. So red is gonna be, you know, take flute, B flat is red, C is orange, D is yellow, so on and so forth up the scale. So those colors are always going to match those notes. So the clarinet piece that you saw, the clarinet girl, C is red, D is orange, E is yellow, F is green, G is blue, A is purple, B is pink, and then you would be back up to C. And then with the accidentals that I had talked about earlier, you know, the B flat for the notation, it would just have you know, for the flute, it would have a red flat or a red little b instead of just a dot. Or an F, it would have a green sharp instead of just a green dot. So I hope that answers the question a little better. And then I do want to hear if anybody noticed why I said, did you catch it at the beginning of this concert video? Thank you. You're welcome. I hope that answered your question.
We have time for more questions if they.
Yes, lay it on me and let me know.
Lay it on her.
Let me
She's
know.
ready.
Tell me if you caught what I was showing you in the beginning this morning, or if you need to re-see it. I noticed the squeaks. Yeah, there were a lot of squeaks. That's not what I'm talking about, though. There were a lot of squeaks. It's elementary band. Yes, we can rewatch. Can I make this bigger? I guess not. Here, I'm gonna move it up. Sorry, it's small. All right, you'll see it now. Does anybody see the trombone that is sticking straight up in the air for the entire song? The entire song. My dude had his trombone sticking straight up in the air. So yeah, I just, needed a little elementary band giggle. According to him, his slide fell off. I don't know how that happened because we don't go that far out in elementary slides. But he spent the entire song trying to put it back on and thought just holding it straight up in the air for the entire song was the way to do it. So it's elementary band. And I'm putting it in the concert. Parents are gonna see it. Oh, elementary band is its own little world. He's a problem solver, that's for sure. Elementary band is outer space, that's what I like to call it. Little
Any
alien.
other questions or comments for Shana? Lots of people attached to elementary band. I love that.
Yes,
It's its own thing.
It's its own thing. It's really its own thing.
Nothing else quite like it.
Notation, colors.
Yeah, let's give it a little bit longer.
Break sign.
Question.
Playing the piano, the thumbs change color in the right and left hand are the same color. The thumbs change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? I just followed based on these are the same. Did I do the thumbs the same? What is your question? The thumbs change color in the right and left hands or have the same colors? I think I have them different. Yes, I have right hand thumb red and left hand pinky red, so that he can go left hands together, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. So thumbs are not the same. These are the same, if you can see. Different. Thumbs were different colors. Any more? I wish I was teaching it now. These tools would have helped me so much, but not need to. Yes, please use them. I'll share. Yeah, I will send out the PowerPoints, of course, and my emails at the end of the PowerPoint. If you want a template or a song or anything that I already have, or that I can throw together quick for you, absolutely let me know. Like I said, I did a song for school out in California real quick. I think it was Star Wars. So yeah, get in contact with me. I'll help you out in any way I can. Piano, band, all that. For chorus and boom markers, yay! I love boom markers, and yes, the colors are the same. I'm all about colors.
Awesome. I think we're ready to let Shana go. Shana, thank you for your time with us today. The morning and the afternoon session. We're psyched to share the slides, and I know people got a lot out of their time with you today.
I hope so.
For me, it's fun because every time I hear you present, there's something new, which I really love.
I'm trying. I feel like I always have to have something new because you're always at my presentations.
I'm glad to hear it. It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing all of that. We're going to let you go back to the rest of your day, and I'm going to do a quick logistics, and then folks are going to be all set. So thank you, Shana. Everyone. Take good care. Super valuable stuff this afternoon, both from Andy and from Shana. What I'm going to do, same thing I did this morning, and just what I've learned over the 6 years is a good habit, and that is to get everybody clear on what our logistics are. So there is nothing new in this presentation. If you saw it at our first session, it's the same. I'm just going over it so we have it in every recording. And I will send these slides again. So these are our logistics. If you look at this list, this is our schedule of synchronous sessions. Today is, of course, April 23rd. Next week, April 30th, we will have general music with Nadia Castagna and music and art with Kayla McLaughlin, and both of those in 101 and 102. On May 7th, we have a little bit of a shakeup. We have technology in both sessions with Tomas Marquez. But in the morning session, we will hear from Sarah Fard on guitar class. And in the afternoon, we will hear from Gretchen Harry on drums and percussion. Then on May 14th, my partner in crime, Victoria Lariccia, will be here doing 2 back-to-back sessions on differentiated instruction and also behavior management. Vicki is a powerhouse in this field. And then on the 21st, Vicki and I will be responding to projects. What are they? Well, we're about to tell you. So first of all, the videos, I've learned it takes a couple days for them to process. So I will get them out to you on Monday. I will also get the slides to you. As soon as I get them from the presenters, I will send them along to you so that you have those materials. Now, in order to get a certificate of participation in the study group, you need to do what's called full participation. And that includes 16 hours of session attendance. That can be all of the level 1 sessions, all of the level 2 sessions, or a mixture. It can be synchronous, it can be asynchronous, it can be a mixture. You also have to do the between session engagement, which is the Google documents that I share after each session for you to reflect on, and I will respond to. I responded to a whole lot of reflections yesterday, and I'll probably do another round in a couple of days. So there's that. And then you also have to create and present a study group project, which we'll talk about in a minute. The certificates of participation will probably go out at the end of June so that we've wrapped up our sessions and we give a little time for the asynchronous folks to catch up. What is a project? It is an application of some aspect of what you learn in this study group to your own situation. Yeah, that's vague on purpose because it's going to vary so much from individual to individual, as it should. Here are some examples of things that people have done: creating curriculum, designing activities, developing modifications or adaptations, developing assessments, trying new approaches and documenting what you notice, case studies of your work with individual students or classes where you try something new. Projects are works in progress. We have 6 weeks together. I am not expecting a big capital R research project that's fully completed and documented. I'm expecting a snapshot of an attempt and what you've learned, right? Depending on what the project is, the deliverable will be different. You're going to be presenting your project on May 21st. The presentation might be a short slideshow, a short video, a short oral presentation, and they are brief. Here it says under 10 minutes. Last year we got so big we had to keep them under 5. So we'll see how many projects there are to present and we'll figure it out. Vicki and I will provide live feedback. And if you can't attend this either synchronous session that day, but you want your project to get feedback, you can email it to me, or there's going to be a folder to submit them. You can submit them to the folder, and I will make sure that they're presented if there's time, and if not, that Vicki and I give asynchronous feedback to you. So everyone's going to get feedback. I encourage you to start thinking about your project now. I will share again the Google Doc where people have been putting in their ideas about their project. It's helpful to do that so that I can respond. Some folks, for example, put 3 different things they wanted to do. And my advice was pick one. We have 6 weeks. So I don't want us to try to commit ourselves to trying to do too much. Or sometimes people had an idea for something that was pretty ambitious and I said, pick part of it. Try not to do the whole thing. So try to sort of keep the scope reasonable so that no one's trying to do too much. And then we're open for questions. So I'm going to stop the share, give us a little bit of time in case there are questions. None of this is new information. It's all exactly the same thing I shared with you last week and also in the slides, but I just want to make sure that there are no lingering questions and that nobody's wondering what they need to do. So let me give it a couple of minutes and see if any questions come in. You can use the chat, you can use the Q&A, all is good. Where did Shana's email get posted? I don't think it did. I can put it right here for you. That's Shana's email. It's in her slides. I know that, but there it is. You're welcome to reach out to her with questions or ideas or comments or whatever you like. She loves to think about this stuff. She's been doing it for a while and she does a really great job. I'm not feeling a whole lot of questions on logistics. So I want to thank you for your participation today. We will call it a day. You always know you can email me with questions, but I feel like people are pretty clear on the logistics, which is great. Watch your email. On Monday, I will send the videos. At the very least, I can send the videos and the slides you just saw from me and the Google Doc links. And then when I get the slides from Andy and Shana, those will come to you as well. So, and probably I have to do multiple emails because it starts getting too big to send. So like last time I had 2 emails, I bet it'll be 2 emails. It might even be 3 if the slideshows are large. Thank you all. Have a fabulous week. Oh, I see a question before we go. Oh, my pleasure, Tracy. Thank you. Have a fabulous rest of your day and a wonderful week, and I will be in touch. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.